So basically what it is, we got Zaki, Saleemi and Ali Abdullah. Zaki Saleemi's from CBL and Ali's from Diamond, of course. And we've got Haya, who's going to be joining us in about 8 minutes. But I wanted to just ask you guys, both of you guys have got amazing like facilities. And I wanted to say, you know, a couple of questions that I've got lined up for you. And we'll ask the first one. I think we'll go Mr. Zaki first. When did like recycling cotton and other fibers, especially with regarding denim in Pakistan, start? And was it like initiated by other companies, or was it something that you guys thought of internally that we should be doing this? So first question to Zaki.
So thank you, Mohsin. It's great to be on the Transformers Foundation second edition for Pakistan. You've been doing a lot more of these around the world, so kudos. And
Thank you.
A lot of big thanks to the Transformers Foundation. And we're very glad to be a part of it. So I think one of the key things here is that recycling in Pakistan has been an ongoing process, probably not as regimented as it's become now. And one of the first movers was pretty much H&M, if I can recall. And that was around 2011, 2012. So they basically set up the supply chain to actually help integrate the raw material sources, as well as having the fiber created externally and internally in Pakistan, and have it certified and put it back into the product. And in order to support that, they also set up a consumer option where their consumers could go out and bring back their old product, old used jeans, and they would get a discount. So that kind of stimulated that whole capture point for used clothing to come in. I'm not going to use the word waste, as Stephen has told us not to. And yeah, so that was a turning point, a tipping point for the denim industry in Pakistan to start utilizing PCW, post-consumer waste, or used clothing.
Yes.
It's right at the tip of the tongue. PCW comes kind of automatically.
It's going to take a while to stop saying it. And I think Ali as well. Obviously, like you guys are both, you know, you're part of the foundation. You're part of the main board as a respect. But regarding your own company, what how long have you guys been doing it? Was it something that you guys were on quite early on? I know both of you guys have a lot of new and old machinery, not old, but lots of different types of like machinery to do like recycling. And Stephen touched on it earlier that there's, and also Miguel, that there's post-consumer waste and post-industrial waste. So I guess both of those you're doing. I guess Ali, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, we're I'd say a relative late entrant into the denim space in general. So our facility started in 2014. We started on our recycle journey, I'll call it, from I believe early 2015 is when we really embarked on it. We actually first forayed into the post-industrial waste aspect, as it was a touch easier to understand and a touch easier to use with less challenges, because there are a lot of product challenges that we potentially face along the way as well. But now obviously we are also using a lot of post-consumer garments.
I've noticed as well as a designer, there's so many more articles with PCW in now, and going back even 10 years ago, you know, some of them weren't as strong. They weren't as strong as they were, but now you can get fabrics that you can't even tell they got recycled content in, right? Like Zaki, and would you agree to that?
Yeah. So it's a lot harder to point out the recycled content, and I think a lot of credit goes to the spinning community in Pakistan. We've done a good job at actually blending these fibers into. So at CBL, we started around 12 to 13 years ago as well. We brought in a plant and we put it in. And we immediately started as something that Ali's also mentioned with our own industrial waste. So a lot of lino weaving waste, a lot of yarn waste, as well as cutting floor waste was being incorporated. And fabrics were being shipped out to places like Turkey. They were being incorporated into multiple different product lines. So spinning has evolved as well. You know, their ability to incorporate waste has improved tremendously, and their understanding of, let's say, blending has improved. So, which basically, in the end product, it's harder to tell that it contains a recycled content.
Yeah, no, I remember my own journey being a designer. I remember using recycled content back in 2004 or 2005 when I worked for Edwin Jeans, and it was brand new to me then. It was like, it was like, what is this? And they were like, oh, we collect the fibers from the floor. And I was like, really? I was like, I didn't fully believe it. So, but now having seen it for myself, it's pretty awesome. And Haya's just joined us as well, which is awesome. So we're gonna play a video. It's about 2 minutes long, and it introduces our friend Haya's plant. Hi, Haya. But yeah, we're gonna play this video first, and then we'll have a nice conversation with the three of these guys that are like here with us now. So Joanne, if you don't mind playing the video, that'd be awesome.
Artistic Fabric Mill being one of the biggest supplier in terms of the recycled material. We're here in our recycling plant, which is known as La Roche. We bring in the garments through a proper certified source, complying with all the proper certifications. We use these garments as a raw material for our recycle plant, separating the cotton and the polyester apart. Then we shred them using our La Roche plant. Then we create out the recycled PCW cotton. That PCW cotton is then converted into a PCW yarn, which is then used in the fabric to make denim. So at this point, we are one of the pioneers from Pakistan using the high-tech machinery of shredding, which is certified through a number of our brands which we are running at the moment.
When it comes to sustainability, we like to break down our process from fiber to finish and try to find sustainable solutions at every stage. A big part of our product portfolio is made from recycled cotton, and we are consistently experimenting with other sustainable or alternate fibers such as hemp, tencel, and more recently biodegradable nylon. AFM was also one of the first mills in the region to set up a GRS certified cotton recycling plant in 2015. And since then, we have run our post-consumer waste program very successfully, even achieving certified supplier status for some leading European brands. Almost our entire collection has at least 5% recycled cotton fiber, and we offer that without any additional upcharge. More recently, we have developed a line of fabrics that uses recycled mill waste to close the loop on our own manufacturing process. And given the success of both of these programs, we are planning on expanding our recycling initiatives in the future.
Wow, how awesome is that? And thank you, Haya, for joining us as well. So we just got to see a little bit of your recycling facility there, Haya. And I'm very lucky to have actually visited it pre-COVID. I'm sure it's even more sparkling now with probably a couple more rooms or even bigger like machinery. But welcome. I've already
Thank you.
I've already asked the first question already, is about when did the mills in Pakistan start doing recycling? But your video very kindly just told us about your operation. I think it was at 2015, right? But
That's right.
Have you got more interesting machinery? Have you just been building on it? I know you guys put more than 5% of recycled content in nearly every single article you produce, which is amazing. So you kind of force it through now, which is great, right?
That's right. I mean, we're kind of like still building on the same technology. More recently, we've been working on 100% recycled fabrics as well, and that's using PIW more than PCW. So that's actually a focal point for us right now. But yeah, like you said, we're the first company in Pakistan to invest in it, and so we've kind of been building upwards. And initially we could only do 5% because I know there's like concerns around like strength. But it says a lot that now we can achieve almost 100% recycled content. So yeah, really just building on that concept.
Amazing stuff. So I guess the question for all of you guys now, obviously you guys produce your own fibers, your own industrial waste, but the post-consumer waste, you would get it from a Stephen, or I guess there's pools of companies within Karachi and in Pakistan that you can get stock of used garments, right? I guess go straight to Haya first, as you said she came on.
Sure. So we actually use our internal mill waste. So most of it comes from our spinning process. We use, and then like obviously from the dyeing process. So we use like leftover lead lines, dyeing lead lines, and even like some of the weaving waste as well. But we source all of our PIW internally. So we know exactly what content it is and where it's coming from.
Okay, and Zaki and Ali, is it a similar thing, or are you guys is there a like network of companies where you buy your post-consumer waste from?
There are nominated chains out there as well. I collect being one of them. However, there is an open market as well. As long as the certification process is solid, then it works through. Mostly for a number of control factors that Haya has mentioned, and one of them being strength and the other technical requirements. So the first step is actually to, which most people have been doing, is to consume the post-industrial waste. There is a requirement for post-consumer waste, which is coming through the nominated supply chains. Most buyers have actually gone out there and set up their own supply chains. I think there is a need for a more, larger, inclusive supply chain that can, that's not driven by specific buyers, and that fulfills the certification requirements as well.
Got you. Yeah, I noticed that even Haya mentioned in the video that everything is like certified, and obviously when you're doing big clients like Levi's or whatever, that you have to make sure exactly where your raw materials or that kind of material is coming from. Ali, a question for you: is it quite difficult to separate cotton and polyester garments in like the sorting stage when it comes to post-consumer waste, or is it something that it is difficult, but we just have to do it by hand, right?
So it's something that needs to be done generally by hand. Obviously not 100% reliable. Generally speaking, when we buy it, again from nominated sources, as Zaki is saying most of the time, it is usually pre-sorted because, as Stephen was mentioning during his talk as well, that this is best done at scale. Yeah. And since we're talking about such massive numbers here, it's not 100% economical or viable for us to do it at a smaller level, and we're more prone to mistakes, to be honest, because this is obviously not our key expertise.
Yeah, no, I know. Haya, obviously visiting your plant, you guys got such a great operation that you are separating by color already. You are separating by cotton and polyester. I remember seeing a pile of garments that you said, yeah, we can't use these because they got polyester in them. So has that situation changed for you, or is it still pretty much the case at the moment?
That is the case. So like, obviously, like you've seen our setup, we have a whole like sorting facility. And whenever the goods come in, you've seen it, it's like mountains of like garments that have to be like sorted through by hand manually. And like Ali said, obviously there is a chance of like, of missing something that's not 100% cotton. But generally, I mean, it's a tedious process for sure, but we have a system in place. We've trained the workers there. And there are checks and balances, and honestly we keep a margin of about like 1 to 2% contamination, and we can kind of like go through that, but anything more is obviously rejected immediately.
Because I remember
the sorting process.
Sure, I can remember clearly that you guys were cutting out the panels, you were avoiding all of the threads, all of the twin needle stitching. So actually when someone recycles a garment, it's not the entire thing at the moment that can be recycled, right? It's only like the big panels. Yeah. So it might be 20 or 30%, right? That can't be recycled at the moment.
Well, right now we've estimated about 50 to 60% of the garment is actually recycled, and the rest is like the metal trims are like all cut out. The seams are all cut out. So it's literally just like panels that we put through the shredder.
Okay. So we've answered the number. I've got some questions that are and there's some amazing questions that are coming through. So keep on coming, guys. We'll make sure they get answered. It was a polyester question because obviously I know both of you guys are, I know Stephen or Miguel can probably answer this question better, but there are places that do recycle polyester, but not currently in Pakistan, right? Is that correct in saying? Ali, is that you think?
We aren't doing it, yeah.
Yeah. Is it just it's like a minefield? Is it just very hazardous? It turns into powder, casting all these extra problems when it comes to recycling polyester, right? That you have to have closed loop systems, right? It's correct. Yeah, that's probably what's going on. Okay, no worries. I'll move on to the next question. What happens? It's a question for Ali now. What happens to the things that you can't use? Obviously, there are some elements that you can't use. do they get burnt off? Do they get used for energy? Do they go in a landfill? Do they just try and get recycled somewhere else? Ali or Haya, you want to answer?
We try our best for them to be recycled elsewhere.
Yeah.
So depending on the state they are in, when they're cut out, we try to sort them out and potentially sell them on for reuse as well. But not everything can be done, and that's obviously disposed of often in landfills or burnt off.
Got you. And Haya, you mentioned also that you guys are one of the, well, I remember seeing one of your 100% recycled fabrics quite a while ago. And so you guys have been really leaning on more of that technology to try your hardest to close the loop and produce a lot more circular based fabrics, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
that's right. And Mohsin, like, you know, that's actually only possible with PIW because it's a longer staple length. So you know, we're always very clear in saying that PCW we can't go more than like 20% when it like passes like the tear and tensile. But for PIW, we have gone up to 100% recycled garment. Wow,
that's amazing. And what other, this is a question to both of you guys, and then what other fibers work well with recycled cotton? Is it our friends like tencel and hemp, or is it like, because is it an expensive process to, I imagine it's kind of expensive. So is it, if when you throw in other newer fibers like a hemp or a tencel, is it a good partner, or is it you have to manage it like making music with the levels? You have to be quite careful what you're doing. It's a question to both of you guys. I don't know if you want to answer first, Ali or Haya. I don't know.
I think, like you said, like it is like music, right? Like we have to like balance it to get the right this right strength, and also keeping in mind the characteristics, right? So like when we use recycled content, it has to be spun in a certain way, which can obviously have an effect on the characteristics of feel of the fabric. So there are several like other fibers that we blend our recycled content with. A lot of it is virgin cotton, and then obviously like lyocell, modal, recycled polyester. So there's like various like other fibers that we blend with.
Amazing. And Ali, I guess it's probably a similar answer to you, right? It's like pretty much sort of all of the above, right?
Yeah. Very similar. It's just about because again with post-consumer cotton, the fiber length is quite short. It's just about trying to add as much strength to it as we can, sometimes with the support of other fibers as well, like tencel, modal, sometimes even potentially recycled polyester.
Okay. So now let's go into the questions that some of our student friends are asking. Athleisure question here, 80% could be entered. Can you suggest materials that we use for? Oh, athleisure. Athleisure, and I don't know, is recycled fibers quite good for athleisure? I guess it could be. There's no reason why it can't, right, Haya? There's no reason why it can't.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in there's a lot of like recycled poly that's like used for athleisure. I'm not so sure about cotton because again, with the strength being a concern. But I am absolutely certain that I've seen garments made of like 100% like recycled, like water plastic bottles or something like that.
Yeah. Another question just regarding the strength again, increasing strength of materials, lack of infrastructure. I guess you guys have already touched on it. It's actually PIW is the one that you're using to get the more higher content of right recycled. So that questions you've already answered. Someone just commenting about how they enjoyed the panel. Very nice. Very comfortable. Okay. Fiber containing lycra. Here we go. Is the lycra question here, guys. After shredding, obviously, I know sometimes you said, Haya, that maybe 1 or 2% might be contaminated, and there might be one of these stretch garments that gets thrown in there. So what sort of things can we be doing to stop the contamination, and what's the solution? I guess the solution is to not use the fiber, right? But can't really do that. But yeah.
That's probably right. That is the best way to eliminate that kind of contamination. But like I said, I think like, 1 or 2% passes through, and after that, it's just about like vigilance and kind of sorting through and making sure that there's as little contamination as possible. And that is what we try to do on a daily basis.
Yeah, and a question for Ali as well. Obviously, when you do recycle, obviously, can you, going back to what Stephen and Miguel have told us, that you can't recycle it too many times, but if a garment is like recycled and it ends up back being in a heap of garments that are going to be recycled again, would you guys spot it? Or would you, I guess we're getting so good at designing fabrics that we can't even tell if they're recycled now, right? Is that the difficulty of what we're about to do?
Yeah, it is, and as more and more fabrics are coming in the market with post-consumer cotton, this is going to become more of a challenge. Ultimately, each time you're recycling the garment, it does go down a cycle, right? So the fiber length is then shorter, and in a lot of cases, that waste would be eliminated during the spinning process. So the only way to tell that's happening is that just your yield for that cotton would drop.
I understand. So, and in the actual plant, when you're, I guess, at the bale stage, when you're picking up and you're going through all the roving and all that business, the fibers that you can't use would be eliminated anyway. So you instantly know, oh, this batch wasn't as good as the one from last year, right? That's probably how you tell. Yes,
that's true. But in general, you know, there's still a big blend of garments that goes in, right? So the hope is that with the blend that's going in, we'd be able to still get something workable out that's not so different. But there's no, as this technology is progressing, it's going to become more and more difficult to spot.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions. I've just got one question I got highlighted. Feel comfortable about using recycled jeans, but I think the concept also treats our like aquatic life. So it's about the microfibers, I guess, that get polluted. Environmental climate changes. Is it still good for life? Why then why should we be burdening ourselves with already facing electric shutdown, power generation issues? So it's a general question about I guess like power and consumption. Obviously, when we recycle anything, there's a lot of energy that does get used, and I'm sure Haya and Ali, you've done all the necessary work to figure out actually it's still viable to do this kind of weaving process, right? I'll go to Haya first.
Yeah, Mohsin, I feel like you know, a lot of times we have to kind of like check the balance between what the correct answer is, right? Like, is it like garments like going into the landfill, or is it like going 100% recycled? And then what happens to like all the hundreds of thousands of people that are like, you know, the farmers that are like farming this virgin cotton? And
yeah,
so it's definitely a balance. And, you know, in terms of like energy and our consumption, we do rely heavily on renewable resources to kind of like lower our impact in that aspect. So it's, you know, it's not just like a linear approach that we take. It's like many different things that like pool in to kind of like lower our impact, or for responsible manufacturing, which is our #1 goal as a company. So it's a bunch of different things, and renewable energy is definitely something that we rely heavily on to kind of lower our impact.
A question about open-end spinning. Maybe Ali can answer this one. Is it to increase the PCW content in fabric? Is open-end spinning the solution, or I guess can you do ring spinning with it, or not really? Maybe you can update us on how that works.
So quite frankly, personally, I don't have a lot of experience with open-end spinning itself, but from the little that I do know, is that ultimately when you put in a short fiber in, whether it's open-end, whether it's ring, the fabric strength will drop.
Yes.
So ultimately, yes, it's easier to make yarn with open-end with shorter fibers, but ultimately, no, I don't think it'll have a substantial impact in terms of increasing the amount of post-consumer cotton.
Okay, and one of our final questions, and thank you so much for being so patient, it's actually from our friend like Shazada Manava. How many sources are there for collecting PCW? I think Stephen answered that a bit earlier. It's all over the world, right? But I think Pakistan is a hub for recycled content, and then you guys are in a fantastic low location to actually sort of get it. But from your knowledge, obviously the sources that you guys use, it's coming from one sustainable source that collects it all for you, and that's how it works, right? So you don't necessarily know exactly where it comes from.
So there's many sources.
Yeah,
there's many sources. We just need to just sort of follow the certificate chain a bit to understand and to ensure that we're getting it from correct sources. One initiative that we are experimenting with is that we've got our local retail stores for ethnic clothing in the country as well. So we're playing with that and experimenting with that on how we can sort of integrate with that as well. But that's just a very, very small portion, an incredibly tiny portion of what is really happening in the chain.
Well, it sounds quite exciting. I thank both of you and Mr. Zaki, who left us a bit earlier, for joining us, and thank you so much for that. And thank you, Haya, for letting us play that video of your facility.
Course.
It's awesome. I love recycling, and I love the fact that it's so mind-blowing, and it's all about spinning as well. It's so many like technologies when it goes into making fibers, but when you do partner it with a lyocell or hemp, or even, you know, a recycled poly, it actually is quite amazing what you can produce. And the recycled denim that I've been seeing in the last few years, I can't actually tell that it's recycled. So you guys and Mr. Zaki are doing such an awesome job in moving things along. So thank you so much for your time. I think there's no more questions that I can see, but thank you so much. So I'll leave you guys to it, and thank you again for joining us.
Perfect. Thanks, Mohsin.
Bye, guys.